Hello, my name is Brandon Sykes, and today we're going to talk about Tonglen Meditation, a form of meditation inside of Tibetan Buddhism. But first, we have to begin at the beginning with Buddhism and its origins. Buddhism stretches back in time to the 5th century BCE when Gautama Siddhartha reached enlightenment underneath the Bodhi tree. The Buddha, as Siddhartha became known, taught others how to reach for the same enlightenment, and part of this enlightenment was the act of meditation. Now, meditation allows one to become more aware of themselves and their surroundings, and even see how they are simply part of a larger world, as compared to being the only thing that matters inside of their world. The most known version of meditation is metta, which means benevolence or loving kindness. It encourages its users to become loving and kind both to yourself before expressing the same loving and kindness to others in the world. This meditation allows one to become more compassionate and aware of those who have it worse than the practitioner. This, in turn, allows the practitioner to become aware of how fortunate they are, and how, even in times of difficulty, others are in need of loving kindness regularly because of their situation in life. Another way to think of this meditation is an empathic meditation. Sharing in the empathy of another allows for compassion to radiate around the person, helping their whole of existence. Now, Buddhism reached Tibet between the 7th and 11th centuries CE, and part of this introduction was the concept of Lojong, often translated as mind training. Lojong is the term that encompasses the teachings and meditative practices that are foundational to Tibetan Buddhism. Lojong naturally focused on compassion, as all Buddhist teachings do, but also emphasized an awareness of the ego, as well as suffering, and even the fear of suffering, and the escape from those issues, and that this would help lead the practitioner to enlightenment. Now finally, we arrive at Tonglen. The meditative practice of Tonglen is part of the mindfulness meditations of ancient Tibetan Buddhism. Tonglen translates to giving and taking, or sending and receiving. And Tonglen is an act where one focuses on an outsider, whether they be a family member, a friend, a stranger, even an animal or large groups of animals or peoples or nations, or even the entirety of the world or our climate. The focus on this outsider is to receive their negative feelings, to invoke them to leave, and clear the space of the negative. And they do that by entering into you. You are willing to accept the feelings of this person or animal or space, allowing them to inform you and mold into you. And once you've received them, you allow them to begin to dissolve, to become meaningless, and you exhale. And your exhale carries all the love, care, and healing in the world. It carries the desires and needs of the focused on entity, and it encourages them to be loved and healed and whole. And Tonglen works by envisioning that negative emotion, ego, pain, a trial that someone or something is experiencing, breathing those ailments into yourself, into your body, your soul, your heart even. You allow them to swirl around inside of you as a dark cloud or a tempestuous sea, and forming it into a cleansed, formless experience. And then breathing out this experience, back to the person or thing you took it from in the form of happiness and health, or whatever it is they need to experience relief. Our Western culture is a fast-paced one, and we want to define ourselves as central to having self-worth. We think we need to be producing, moving, doing something that exhibits an action has taken place. This is very isolating, demanding that we focus only on ourselves and those at once in our sphere of influence. It's just wrong. Meditation itself encourages us to sit in silence often and focus, a requirement that's difficult for most of us. We don't want to not think of anything if we can help it. And instead we want to be planning, producing, or otherwise doing something constructive. Meditation asks us to turn off these aspects and simply be. When we try this practice and we cannot turn off our brains, we give up, assuming that we'll never be able to do it because our culture enforces a success or failure mentality, where if we don't achieve immediately, we give up and move on to something else. There is, however, a reality that most people, not only those in the West, are out to fend for themselves. We as a global society are more focused on capitalistic gains rather than the love and compassion for others in the world. And that's not to say that there aren't people who exhibit love and compassion. I know many of them. But the regular mode of the global population is to produce and consume. It's my opinion that Tonglen is a better practice for most who decide they want to meditate. Whereas in metta meditation, loving kindness meditation, the practitioner might zone out and need to come back to the breathing. Tonglen doesn't have this problem because of the focus on someone other than the self. By focusing on the one that is hurting, you stay in the meditation. You stay aware and cognizant and feeling, which is the entire point of Tonglen. Their negativity and create health and healing out of that negativity that you encompass inside of yourself and expel towards the harmed one. Now, I am a Christian clergy person. As such, I want to be more compassionate and loving to those around me as taught by Jesus Christ. Christians are called to prove the love of Christ by loving others. And we do this by serving others and calling to task systemic oppressions and brokenness. And this is most often expressed in actions such as food pantries, homeless shelters, protesting even, as well as general education classes. However, I believe that Buddhist meditation, and particularly Tonglen meditation, can be used to further the love and compassion that we are called to provide to others by emphasizing it in ourselves when we're not physically present with those suffering. Now, Susan Stabile's book, Growing in Love and Wisdom, Tibetan Buddhist Sources for Christian Meditation, names a particular use of Tonglen in her personal meditations. What she does is she encourages the Christian to contemplative meditation, which is prayer, and to ask for God's aid in bringing the pain and suffering of others into herself. And then using the light of God, sending the healing light of compassion back into the other person. This is a beautiful example of how we are truly called to pray and act as Christians that have been overcome with the thoughts and prayers movement of the past decades. One could even argue that with Susan's definition, that Jesus demonstrated Tonglen, especially in his actions on the cross, breathing in the sins and brokenness of the world and exhaling the light of God's forgiving spirit among us all, and continuing that breathing out through the Holy Spirit's presence that is with us today. Tonglen is a particularly beautiful meditative practice that encourages us to not only acknowledge the less fortunate in ourselves with compassion, but to truly effect a change by breathing good into the world. When we practice Tonglen, we are learning to remove our selfish tendencies and ego as thoughts, and instead focus on compassion and caring for others. Tonglen helps us become better people by recognizing the hurts that others go through and not simply acknowledging them, but offering our help as members of the global experience, and seeing that together we can become more loving, kind, compassionate, and caring, not only to ourselves, but to other people, to the animals, and indeed to the whole world.